All right, so here we are ready to get started putting everything together, but I wanted to first talk to you about your zipper. I'm using a metal zipper today. You do not have to use a metal zipper. You can use a regular plastic zipper. The metal zippers you have to be a little more careful with because you can break your needle and hurt your machine if you're not careful, but they look fabulous. So mine is super long. Yours can either be exactly the length of your main or longer. If they're longer, you're just going to center them, and then we'll cut off the excess later. It's not a big deal. I like to buy longer ones than I need just because I like centering it so I don't have to worry about the zipper stops and stuff when it comes to bags. So that's up to you, however you want to do it. You'll just measure the top of your main, and you'll that's the size zipper you'll get. So we've got our zipper, we've got all of our fabric. We're ready to get started, and we are ready to move on. Now, I wanted to say one more thing. In the instructions, you can see right here, we have a whole page on page 5 about adjusting the size of your laptop case. It tells you exactly what to do. Now, this tutorial is for a laptop case that measures, or a laptop itself that measures 12.5 inches wide and 8.5 inches long, and it's a 1/2 inch thick. So your laptop may be bigger or whatever than this. So Tiffany, who actually designed this tutorial and put it all together, she tells you exactly how to measure your device and adjust each of the pattern pieces to fit your whatever device you're making. It's pretty awesome, so you can make it as big or as little as you need it to be. All right, so that's on page 5. Now we are ready. We are ready for the tutorial. One quick note is that it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance unless it's otherwise stated. And for the most part, it is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, so we already did the first portion that says to adhere all your interfacings to the wrong side of each of your pattern pieces. Yeah, so we are ready, and we've labeled all of our pattern pieces, so we're ready to go. We're going to start by preparing the exterior panels. And the first thing we're going to work on there is our large exterior pocket, and since I have it labeled, it was easy to find. All right, so we're going to take, let me grab my clips and my pins just in case. All right, we're going to take these two pieces. Now, this is the top, this is the bottom, these are the sides, okay? So your device slips in this way or whatever, okay? So it doesn't go like this, it goes like this, all right? So it's 16.5 inches wide. So we're going to place these right sides together, our main and our lining. And you can clip across here. But what we're going to do first is we are going to stitch across the top here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, you don't have to do this part if you're not doing any exterior pockets at all. You're just going to skip to page 13 and you're going to jump right to the handles, all right? But for those of us that are doing all of the pockets, we're going to do this. So we're going to stitch across the top of here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I will be right back. All right. Here we are. Now I'm going to trim my seam allowance to about a 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, to about a 1/4 inch. All right, I'm going to, step 2, I'm going to open up the main pocket and lining. I'm going to press this seam allowance open to the best of my ability. It is a tiny little seam there, or tiny little, yeah, seam allowance. We're going to fold it wrong sides together. And you may be tempted to skip that step of opening up your seam allowance, but it really does help get a crisp edge here on your, right here on this, at the seam. So we've done that, and it folds perfectly on that seam, and we're going to press it again. And now we're going to go to our sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch across here. So that's like 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch from the edge. All right, let's do that. Okay, so I have top stitch across there. I'm just going to give another quick press. I do like pressing, makes things look nice. And just inspect your work as you go. Make sure you're good. All right, so there is that. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna find the center of our panel here. Then you can measure across and mark the center, and you can go all the way down with a piece of chalk or an erasable marker of some sort, whatever you have. But what I'm gonna do, and this is pretty common, is I'm gonna fold it in half, and I'm gonna give it a good press right here on this crease. The crease is going to be my center mark. So if I open it up, we can see that I've got a crease right down the center. I'm gonna leave it folded in half, and I'm actually gonna clip it, okay? So I want to just make sure that my seam stays put. And now I'm going to set it to a side. I'm going to set it to the side. There we go. And we'll come back to it later. Okay, so now I'm going to grab all three of my pockets. The constructions of the pockets, the small pockets, are the same regardless of whether you're doing the interior pocket, the mouse pocket, or the pencil pocket. So we're going to do each of them exactly the same. So we're going to move these little clips or little labels to the side here. And we're going to take, this is our lining and this is our main, and we're going to put them right side together at this top edge, and we're going to clip in place. Okay, we're going to do that with all three. Use as many clips as you need. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch using a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way across all three of these. Now we're going to take each piece and we are going to trim that seam allowance down to about 1/4 inch. The next thing we'll do is we'll take each piece, and we know that the lining is longer than the main. We're going to open them up like this, and we're going to press that seam allowance toward the lining. We're going to take each pocket. And we already know that the lining is longer than taller than the main, but so we're going to pull the main towards the bottom edge of the lining, and we're going to clip in place. And what you see here is we've got a bubble here. See that bubble? And that's okay. We're going to push that up and press it down a little bit to flatten it out. We want that bubble there, okay? We want the lining to just peek out over the top of our main. That's what we want, okay? So once that's all flat, and we'll do that on each of them. All right, now for each of these, we are going to head back to our sewing machine, and we are going to start on one side or the other, and we're going to sew down this line. We're going to go here, we're going to stop, lift our press of foot, keep our needle down and pivot, and we're going to sew to about here. We're going to leave this open because we're going to turn this right side out. Then we're going to come over here. All right, so you're going to stitch down both sides and partially across the bottom on all three of these so that we have an opening to turn these right side out. Okay, so here we are. We are going to trim our seam allowance down to about 1/4 inch here, and here we're also going to clip our corners. We are not going to trim the opening. We need to be able to fold that under, so we're not going to trim that. Okay, notice how I have this little extra piece of fabric there. That's for turning in when it's time to stitch that closed. Okay, now that we've trimmed everything and we've clipped our corners, it's time to turn our pockets right side out. Because I've used this decor bond, it's going to be a little more challenging because it's so stiff. So I definitely recommend SF 101 because the turning process is just so much easier. It's just a more forgiving interfacing. Okay, and so this is where we'll turn in our opening by that 1/2 inch. You need that extra fabric there. You're going to turn that in, and you're going to give the entire thing a good press. Okay. And once you're done, you're just going to set each piece aside. So you're going to want to mark these again, so just so you remember which one is which. This is the pencil pocket. So what I want you to notice is how really cute. I love this idea that Tiffany came up with to have this, the lining peeking out the top. It just really gives a level of definition. It's so cute. I really love it. And if you see any corners that aren't pushed out quite right, get back in there. And there we go. Make them as square as I can. All right, looking good. All right, we've prepped our pockets. Set that to the side, and we are moving on to page 10, where we're going to attach the mouse and the pencil pocket. So we'll grab those, our mouse and our pencil pocket, to one of the main panels. So we're going to grab, a main panel. All right, got this right here. All right, so if you're not putting these in, again, go straight to the handles. You don't have to do this part. It says here, as a little bit of a note, for the small exterior mouse and pencil pockets, the tutorial is going to show them being placed inside the large exterior pocket. So here we have our large exterior pocket, okay? It's going to look like this, and these are going to be inside, so they're going to be like this. And this pocket, the big pocket's going to cover it, okay? So when you open it, you've got your little pockets. However, you can put these pockets on the outside, and then it kind of goes like this. It's up to you. I like them being hidden. It gives them just a little extra level of protection there. So I'm going to do them on the inside here, and that's how the tutorial shows it to be done. So now the first thing we need to do is we need to find the center of this panel. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, and I'm going to line up those sides, hopefully. There we go. And then I'm going to press it. I don't like marking up my main all the time. Like I said, sometimes they don't want to come out. The marks don't want to come out. So, okay. So I kind of have a crease here, but that's not really, it's not really looking too good. So what I can do is I can get some chalk or a marker, whatever it is that you like to use, and you're just going to lightly, you may not be able to see this, but I can, very lightly down the center, okay? A little green marking, all right? That's the first thing. Now we need a measuring utensil. So we've got our center mark here. It says measure over 1 inch on either side of the center line and mark. So what's going to happen is we're going to measure over and we're going to measure down. All right. So we know, what we know is that okay, so let's measure over. We're just going to guesstimate where to put it. We do know that the pockets, they're not going to be up here. They're going to be down here, right? Because this pocket has to cover it, right? So we know that. So we'll guesstimate where that should be. So we're going to grab this and we're going to mark at 1 inch here and 1 inch here. So there's 2 marks. All right, so now that we've marked both of our 1 inch points, that's where the side of our pocket is going to hit, 1 inch away from the center. Now we need to mark for where the top is going to hit. It's different for each of these. If you're doing 2 pockets that are the same as this, you're going to measure down, the same amount. But since we have 2 different sizes, the measurements are a little bit different. Okay, so for the mouse pocket, I'm going to measure down 3 inches. And then I'm going to mark that, okay? That's where the top of our pocket will hit. So the top will hit here at this mark, and the side will hit here. So 3 inches down, 1 inch over. That's where it is, okay? I'm going to take this out. All right, so that's where that's going to be. For the pencil pouch, we're going to measure down 5 inches. Now you could even it out, you know, if you want to do exactly, if you want to have it all be even here, you can do that too. It's up to you. But I'm going to do 5 inches, and I'm going to mark that. Okay, so the top of my pocket is going to hit that line, and the side is going to hit this line. So we've got that. All right, so those are our 2 placements. All right, I think those look pretty darn good. Check your work, make sure it's good to go. Yeah, before you do anything else, grab your exterior panel, and you want to lay it on top and line it up with the bottom edge and the side seams. And you just want to make sure that nothing's in the way, and that your pocket, your exterior pocket, totally covers the pockets inside. Okay, and there's pictures of that in the tutorial. Okay, so I know that they do. So my measurements are good. And the great thing about this, totally adjustable. You do you, put them where you like them. I think the best guide to keep with is a 1 inch away from the center line on either side, and then you can adjust them up and down as you like. All right, so now I'm going to turn my pocket over, and you can either use tape or Wash Away Wonder tape, or you can use a pin. That works too. But this just makes life a little bit easier. Everyone knows how much the 5 out of 4 team just loves Wash Away Wonder tape, so we use it every chance that we can get. So I'm going to use it on this as well. All right, so we're going to put the tape on all the way around. You could just do on the sides, even on the bottom. You could probably just do that too. So take the paper off. All right, now turn it over, and you're going to line it up again with your markings. And you're going to press it down, okay? Alternatively, I should say, you can grab a pin, and you can put a couple pins in it. As long as it stays where it needs to be and it's not going to move around, you are good to go. Voila, we have our pockets on here. All right, our next thing that we are going to do is we're going to head to our sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch along from here down, all the way over and up. Now this is where you want to make sure that you catch all of this opening, so you're totally closing it. We're going to make sure we're back stitching at both of these ends, because we need, there's going to be pressure on that pocket, right? So we need to make sure that we back stitch here and here. So we're going to just 3 sides, and I will be right back. Okay, here we are. Take my pins out. Okay, so not perfect. This one got a little crooked. When you pin it, you just got to pin it a lot better than I did, but that's okay. It'll be fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to page 12, which is the the pencil slots. We're going to put pencil slots in here. You don't have to. This can just be a small little pocket here, but if you put pencil slots in, then you've got, you can put your pens and pencils in there, which I kind of like that idea. So what you're going to do is you are going to mark at 1 inch intervals, all right? So you got from stitch to stitch, you've got 6 inches. So every inch you're going to mark. Okay, and then you're going to want to grab a straight edge here. You're going to do a light mark down each of those 1 inch marks here. And now we're going to go back to our sewing machine, making sure to backstitch at the top and the bottom, and we're going to sew down each of these. This one got a little wonky. Let's fix that. We're going to sew down each of these lines. We're going to come up off the edge a little bit and backstitch up here. That way, it's a really strong seam. So I'll be right back. Okay, here we are. I'm going to trim my threads here. love the pencil pocket. I really, really do. I love being able to put my pens. I mean, they fit nice and snug in there. And this is going all the way to the bottom, so it still sticks up. It's not going to get lost in there. I don't have any other pens or pencils to shove in there, but it's not going to get lost. Here's even my little, whatever this thing is, seam ripper fits. Got a seam ripper in there. I love this. I cannot tell you the countless writing utensils that I lose in the bottom of every bag I own. This is so fabulous. I love it so much. This was such a great design detail. Okay, now we've made that. It's time to move on to the next thing.